Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of AutoCentral, South Africa's #1 motoring podcast. And my name is George Mienie, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by none other than Wandile Sishi. How are you, Wandi?
Not too bad, not too bad. Strange week we've had, but you know, these things happen. So, yeah, let's get it.
Was it a strange week?
Well, all the fires in Cape Town, and you know,
yes.
yeah, I think it's a bad time in the South African month of what are we in? April. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting cooler. The fires are a sad state of affairs, and you know, our sympathies and empathy go out to 100%. All those being affected by these fires. You know, you heard about the Cape Town University Library. Sad.
Yeah.
Some 100-odd-year-old buildings burning down. Yeah. Sad. It's just sad. You know, I hope the characters that were responsible for this actually get brought down. It's disgusting, to say the least. But let's not focus on that. Where can listeners find this show?
So you can find the show every single Monday on cliffcentral.com at 9 a.m. So that's if you want to listen to the audio only. But if you want to see our faces, you can also catch us on the AutoTrader SA YouTube channel. We're also streaming on Spotify as well as iTunes as soon as the show goes up. And if you're watching us, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and give us some comments. Tell us what you think.
Lovely stuff. So, in today's episode, thanks, Wandi. Go and smash that like button and please subscribe. Smash it. I wonder why people say smash it.
I don't know. I've kind of picked it up as well, man. Anyways.
Smash it anyway.
Smash it.
In today's episode, in 2021, what is the true cost of a new car? What does it cost to manufacture and put it out there? And are cars getting too expensive? And later in the episode, we'll also introduce for the first time, a brand new entrant into the market that is threatening to shake up the bakkie market. You know, we're a bakkie nation.
We are, yeah.
And that is the GWM P-Series, which incidentally...
Actually, yeah.
Boom, is standing right here.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear about it, fan.
Neither can I. And then as usual, right at the end, we will answer 3 burning motoring questions from our Ask AutoTrader platform. Getting straight into it, this we're going to coin as the money episode. What is the real production cost of cars, and are they becoming too expensive? So briefly, we've touched on the topic of increasing new car prices in the past, and today we want to understand, what does it actually cost to manufacture a car? Let's see if we can unpack that.
Yeah.
We know that in the used car market, we've seen average price increases of about 8.5% at the end of last year, but that's largely as a result of
the pandemic,
the pandemic and then a reducing supply of new car.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, they go hand in hand. So whatever happens in new car ultimately will have
an impact.
Sort of impact on used,
Exactly. So the less new cars we sell, the less used cars are in the system, the more demand there is for used, the higher the prices get. So it is in our best interest to actually stimulate new car demand. So on the flip side, though, new cars that have been financed, the average price of a financed new car has increased by just over 9%.
Yeah, which is higher than inflation.
Yes, higher than inflation, but it just means that people are buying more expensive cars. Does it really mean that the price of the car's gone up? But on the flip side of that is actual new car prices on average have risen by 9.6% in reality.
Yeah, and that's, I think, is something that we need to kind of unpack a bit later.
Why? Why has that happened? And while no automaker reveals its figures, the final estimation of a car's price has plenty of ifs, buts, and I'm pretty sure that it's a pretty competitive environment. It's not like they're making massive amounts of profit. I don't think that is the case in the long run.
No, I mean, the thing is, I think when we were looking at new car price changes over time, the last time we kind of did this, what we found is that it's not necessarily the cars are getting more expensive. They're actually moving with the times. But in South Africa, what's really hitting us is the fact that the rand is not as strong.
Well, we have a volatile currency. We don't have a hard, what's referred to as a hard currency. Our currency is very much dependent on other currencies in the world. So, but the general rule is that the larger the car and the bigger the production volume, the more cost effective it is to manufacture.
You can only imagine that. I mean, once you're halfway through making a sedan, if you go a little bit further, you're kind of already in the process of making a car. If you just go bigger like this bakkie here, it's going to be a little bit cheaper.
Yeah. Well, yes, especially if the volume's up.
Yeah.
And building a concept car or a limited number. I mean, you think about Tesla right at the beginning building that Roadster.
Yeah.
Not many of them sold. And it's much more expensive to put that car out on the road because you've got low production volumes
and
low
also
demand volumes.
For some of the high-end brands like Porsche or the Koenigseggs, they have to do crash tests with these million dollar cars, and it starts adding up. Whereas if the car's a bit cheaper to produce, crashing it is not going to be that much of an impact.
Let's crash all the cheap cars, is what you're saying.
Well, I mean, crash all the cars. Please crash all of them because safety.
Safety is important. So I mean, what we've managed to dig up is that building a car depends on really two sets of expenses.
Yeah. What are those two sets of expenses?
Fixed costs and variable costs. Okay. So briefly, Wandie, if you had to guess a percentage, how much would you say is the gross profit on the average new car?
Taking in consideration production and kind of what we've just unpacked, I'd like to think it's not much, but I understand that business is business. So 10% maybe per vehicle?
Don't know. I think I mean these manufacturers are businesses at the end of the day, and they don't make those numbers public. But from what I've heard in the South African market, the profit on a new car at dealership level anyway, is low single digits. It's low at dealership level.
At dealership level, yeah.
Exactly. So you can only imagine it doesn't probably go up much north of that for manufacturers.
Definitely,
because there's this one element called fixed costs. So you can imagine you've got a manufacturing plant, and whether you manufacture one car or whether you manufacture 1 million cars, that the cost of running that factory is the same at a certain level. So
it's not as efficient, right?
It's not as efficient. You've got to pay all the people that are there.
Yeah.
You've got to pay the rent or pay for the building. So that's one of the costs. So testing and prototyping a vehicle means that you've got to be in for those costs up front.
Anyways, regardless of how many vehicles and they fix, they're not going to change.
They're not going to change.
Yeah, even if you make a kind of an update of a vehicle, I mean, a lot of that research and development's already been done the first time around. So that's kind of the benefit of long-running models.
Exactly.
But so that's definitely one aspect of it. Would you say that is a significant portion of, I guess, what people end up paying?
I mean, I would imagine that the fixed cost of manufacturing a vehicle is one of the biggest portions.
Yeah.
And a lot, I would say, goes down to the R&D that goes into that manufacturing, or should I say, into that design process.
Yeah, I mean, you have to differentiate yourself now, and unfortunately, those margins from OEM to OEM are so tiny.
They're tiny because there's lots of competition.
Research and development becomes paramount to differentiate yourself.
Well, you've got to constantly update. I mean, if you think of the last 100 years, Henry Ford found a way to bring down the variable cost of the car
by just doing mass production essentially.
Well, it was the assembly line. That's what you did. So that's fixed costs, and fixed costs will be the same whether you, as we said, manufacture one or whether you manufacture 1 million vehicles. So, as an example, the first generation of cars, a brand new kind of car coming into the market, will have a higher fixed cost allocated to it than a second generation. Like, look at the Toyota Prius as an example. The second generation would be cost much less than the first generation because it's the same platform being used. It's just an updated car.
And it's usually just an interior updates and some cosmetic changes on the outside. But I mean, the platform and the base is pretty much there.
So you got to ask yourself, is the first generation of a car a loss-making unit?
I think it sometimes can be depending on how popular the vehicle is.
So maybe sometimes manufacturers are relying on the fact that they can get mass adoption of the first generation and then start to make money off the second generation, because that's true for electric vehicles.
I mean, you have to, at the end of the day, you have to answer to your investors, right? They're going to give you X amount of money for R&D, and you have to kind of make it back. And if it's not popular, then there's no way you'll be able to make the second round. And I think a lot of people can kind of accept the fact that,
it's
a risk.
It's a risk, and it's inexpensive.
Yeah.
But electric vehicles in the world today, and any vehicle under, I heard $35,000
Okay.
is actually under cost to manufacture that vehicle.
How much does a Tesla go for?
The Model 3, I think it's about 35.
Yeah, I think it's actually exactly that. But before, it wasn't that much. So I know that they were making a loss for
a long time.
A long time.
Yes. But now the production volumes
Yeah.
have now made their variable costs come down. And let's move on to variable costs. So variable costs are the cost of raw materials, labor, maintenance, and utilities within the factory, like electricity, and other related costs that go up or come down depending on the volume of vehicles produced.
Okay. So now we have these two little different things. So the variable costs essentially can change.
It changes all the time. Yes.
Okay.
So, for instance, you can imagine running a assembly robot, which uses electricity.
Yeah.
You're going to use more electricity the longer that robot is running. So that's a variable cost. It goes up and it comes down. So these are variable costs in the cost of a vehicle. So then what is the breakdown? So we've done some digging and tried to find the breakdown of the various costs in terms of fixed or variable costs within a vehicle. And so what does it cost? According to a 2012 study, automobile industry retail price equivalent and indirect cost multipliers, that's the name of the study, the breakdown of the costs were as follows.
I can't wait to hear this.
Raw materials and prices of the parts made up 57% of the total price of the car.
So this price, this is not the cost of production.
I think it's the cost of production. 57% of the cost. Or maybe it's the price, because there's a profit margin in there, right?
I think so. I think it's I think it would be the total price of the vehicle. 57% comes from.
I don't think the 57 changes whether you use one number or another, because the profit margins, as we said right at the beginning, are so small.
They're so small anyways, yeah.
So if you use the retail price of the car, maybe that percentage is lower. If you use the cost of the car, maybe it's a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Okay, so 57% raw materials. R&D, development, engineering, and the running facilities, 16% of the total cost of a vehicle.
Okay, so we can see why the margins aren't that big. Well, as far as the study goes.
Yeah, and in this study, now don't forget advertising costs, because there's no point in making a widget and nobody knows about it.
Exactly. I think I would think it's pretty high.
Well,
especially if it's a first generation vehicle.
15,600, we converted this into rands, 15,600 rand per unit on average.
If you're making 1 million units, that number goes up.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I would guess that the more units you want to sell, the more you've got to market.
Yeah, but I mean, if you sell all of that, that's how you can kind of beat that system.
Yeah,
almost.
So if you think about the average price of a car today, in excess of 300,000 rand, what's the average price of a new car in South Africa today?
About 356,000.
350. I don't know. This is an international study, so we've just converted this into rands. Average dealership markup is about 20,000 rand.
That's why it's important that you have a vehicle, long-standing brands like Hilux, where you don't have to necessarily go as hard in spending 15,000. For them, it could be, 8,000, 5,000 per unit.
Yes, exactly. And if you think about a car, 400,000 rand car, and and making 20,000 rand off that, that's 5%.
Yeah,
margin. And I would think it's less than that on average. This is an international study, especially in South Africa with the stuff that we've
kind of dug up. Yeah.
Well, the challenges that we face in the rand dollar exchange rate. So in summary, how would you sum up what we've spoken about, Wandile?
I think it goes hand in hand with when we looked at new car price changes. I think yes, cars are getting a little bit more expensive. Across used and new.
I think new is getting a lot more expensive.
A lot more expensive, definitely a lot more expensive. But I think we have to understand that the only reason we can get these new vehicles, which are safer, by the way, which are more comfortable, which are just better, is if they do go up. There's lots of research that goes into these vehicles, and ultimately they're trying to keep us safe and give us freedom.
Well, there's one way to bring the price down, right?
And what is that?
Buy more cars.
Buy more cars. And reduce the taxes that we're paying on them.
Well, there's another one. So we got to get a stable economy to get a stable currency, so because that impacts the ability to import, and then the taxes on the import of these cars or the import of the parts themselves to assemble or build them.
Yeah.
We have to begin working with government to bring those down.
Affordability, I think, is the main concern here. Not necessarily the price of cars, but can people actually afford it? And kind of that balancing act, I think, is what's going to potentially threaten any car markets globally.
Exactly. So I think we can safely conclude that OEMs, it's not about greed.
No.
They're not making.
It's not the man who's like,
they're not making a bomb here. They're it's a volume game, and they're trying to innovate to make things better and better and better all the time.
Definitely.
So I suppose that's all we have time for on our money episode. What is the real production cost of cars? And I hope you got something out of that.
Yeah,
and we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to have our very own expert journalist, Minnie, no relation, to review the 2021 GWM P-Series, which is standing right here in our studio alongside us. See you in a sec. All right, well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we are kindly joined by none other than Lawrence Mienie, our expert journalist at AutoTrader, to join us to talk about the 2021 GWM P-Series. Now, Lawrence, South Africa is a bakkie nation. I mean, we know bakkie searches are through the sky, the Ford Ranger, the Toyota Hilux, and today we're sitting with a very different vehicle in the studio that you've tested. I don't know how you got this thing in here.
It wasn't that easy, but yes.
You drifted it in.
That's probably one of the... What can I say about this vehicle is it is so surprising.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the things is it surprised me how easily it was to maneuver in here. Usually double cabs have got the turning circle of a cruise ship, but this one actually turns on a dime. It's actually surprising.
Yeah.
So it's funny because we've had a few new bakkies that have come into the South African market trying to steal from some of the legacy brands.
Well, I mean, Mercedes.
They tried.
Mercedes bakkie and failed.
Well, we all know why, because they were too expensive.
Well, we're just talking about cost.
This is the money episode, so is kind of price the biggest differentiator between this and the legacy brands, or is this something that everyone should kind of consider?
Absolutely. The first thing is, of course, that similarly spec'd vehicle.
Yeah.
The same engine, same sort of drivetrain layout. There's about 150 to 200,000 Rand price difference between this and a similarly spec vehicle.
I'm assuming this is cheaper.
Yes.
But why?
I suppose it comes down to manufacturing costs and the fact that they've managed to put together a package that is equivalent to what you can get from other brands like Ford
or Toyota.
And Toyota.
So, but is it like Ford and Toyota, or is it? I mean, I remember years back where Tata came into the market, and I mean, today Tata's a strong brand.
They're huge.
They're huge,
massive,
but everybody laughed.
Yeah.
In India.
Yeah.
The thing here is these guys, GWM, they're not going to dethrone Ford and Toyota in any hurry. But boy, oh boy, are they close.
Really?
This vehicle is right up there. It has a few idiosyncrasies. It's like the guys over in China, they got the recipe, they made the cake.
The secret sauce.
And it's just not quite there yet. But I think with the next incarnation, once they've polished a few things, it's going to be something. If they can keep it at the same price, yes, it's going to be there to rival. When it comes to South African brand buyers, of course, it's always going to be Ford and Toyota.
So what power plant does this have in it?
It has a 2-liter single turbo diesel.
Turbocharged.
Yes.
Turbo diesel. Okay, so it's pretty sluggish off the mark, but once the turbo gets going, it gets going.
It lights up the rear wheels. 8-speed ZF gearbox. So
automatic?
Yes, and a Borg & Warner 4x4 system.
What does that mean?
So
that's a good
this is, okay, there's a differentiating line when it comes to the equipment level that Chinese automotive manufacturers will fit to their vehicles. A lot of their stuff is off the shelf, made locally.
Yeah.
Locally here or locally there?
Locally there.
Okay.
So the quality is always called into question. But now what you have in the underpinnings of this thing is essentially what you would find in any vehicle that's made in Europe.
Okay.
And when we go back to the design of the vehicle, when you look at the GWM Steed, which this is going to be replacing, square, boxy, very...
I don't like that.
Very farm vehicle-ish. This now has those rounded lines that we've come to expect from luxury double cabs. It looks soft and comfortable to drive, and it is. I mean, we filmed the vehicle yesterday, and we bombed it up a mountain in the Magaliesberg.
Wow.
And
So it's capable.
and
4x4 capable.
Absolutely 100%.
So it's got diff lock, 4-wheel drive, all the
4
trimmings. Wow.
So what really
Yeah.
kind of, on top of that, so yeah, it's capable, but what really, really threw me off was the interior.
Oh yes, and that's probably the I
trump card.
suppose where the cake gets a little bit messy, because you have things
is it
like
plasticky?
no, you have a quilted leather interior with chrome.
Okay, so just remind us, quilted leather versus
So it has that diamond stitching
Yeah.
patterns
Okay.
on the
Kind of
doors and on the
sportier.
seats. It has heated seats, 360-degree camera. You have lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, forward collision alert. So it has all the bells and whistles that you would normally find in a luxury vehicle.
So what do they go for?
So this is 544,900 Rand with a 5-year, 100,000 kilometer warranty and service plan.
Okay, so just remind me, competition to this is
Well, the closest one would be something like any one of the Ford or Hilux vehicles that has a 2-liter single turbo. Most of them are now moving towards their 2-liter bi-turbo.
For the same sort of options, how much would you pay for that?
About 720,000.
so that's where you get your 200,000 Rand from.
Yeah.
So where have they found the money to do this?
And
Or are they making a
that's-
loss?
And that's the kicker. If you look closely, you start to see where they've shaved the money. Probably my biggest bugbear and the reason why I'm going to score the vehicle the way I do is the steering wheel. You get in the vehicle and that's your touch point. That's your main interaction with the vehicle. And they've gone and thrown this rubber bus steering wheel in it. It looks terrible.
Bus steering wheel.
And it unfortunately detracts from everything else that they've done that's so nice.
Yeah.
But
is a steering wheel that? I mean, is it
yes.
that expensive?
And that's the reason why I say maybe in the next incarnation when they decide to put something a little bit more chunky and actually leather wrapped, with the thing has paddle shifters in it, so
Yeah.
it gives you an idea.
Yeah.
They've got paddle shifters on the back of this rubber steering wheel, and it detracts. Other than that, build quality is excellent, ride quality is excellent. It is very capable on and off road, and I cannot stress more than if you're in the market for a double cab, go and drive one of these. Don't just push it off to the side and say, it's a Chinese thing. Go and drive it, and I promise you, you'll be blown out of your socks.
It's like the Haval. I mean, they're very popular.
The SUVs.
And now this is the
Yeah.
kicker. If you go and you look at the interior of this vehicle, it's Haval.
It's a Haval.
It's a Haval H9. They pulled the interior and all the fittings from a Haval H9
and put it in, yeah.
and put it in there, and then
Interesting.
that is the drive that you get. It's absolutely fantastic.
Well, then, finally, Lawrence, how would you score this car out of 10?
I was heading towards a 7.5, but I'm going to go with a 7 because unfortunately, there's a couple of little touch points, and of course the steering wheel, which just ruined it for me. It's going to get a 7.
Well, the other car that we've scored a 7 in its category has been the VW Amarok.
And this is actually better than that base model Amarok
At a much better price.
at a much better price, yeah.
Interesting stuff. Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Our very own Lawrence Mienie scoring the GWM P-Series, standing right here behind us at a round number 7, which then scores the same score as the VW Amarok that Lawrence, in fact, reviewed way back when.
I'm a bakkie guy, so I've driven just about everything that there is out there, and yeah, this is up there. This is actually, it's beating the Isuzu D-Max at the moment.
Wow. Well,
Incredible.
ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, Lawrence. And
Always a pleasure.
as usual, go to AutoTrader's platform, go and read Lawrence's review, his expert review on this vehicle, the GWM P-Series, as well as many others. You can go and read up about the VW Amarok.
The D-Max, the everything, Hilux, Ranger,
All of it.
works.
Go to autotrader.co.za and go and read up about it, and you'll see their opinions on these vehicles, and go and make up your own mind.
Yeah.
And then let us know. Go onto social media and tell us. So, as usual, Lawrence, thank you for your time. We'll see you just now.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, gents.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And there you have it, Wandile, the GWM P-Series. What did you think?
I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, I mean, compared to everything else that's on the market at that price,
I'm not a bakkie person, so I'll take your word for it. But in saying that, everyday people send AutoTrader some motoring-related questions all about car buying and car selling. So now Wandile and I will attempt to answer 3 of those burning questions. Wandile, what's the first question?
First question this week comes from Mohammed, who blankly said, "Hi, I'm looking for Bajaj. I was directed to AutoTrader. I've seen this trending and I'd like to know if there is any." So I don't know if you've been following the news, but this is that car that's essentially 150 Rand per month. And it's making waves and people are looking for it on AutoTrader.
Well, sadly, I haven't seen the Bajaj for sale. Have you?
Not on AutoTrader, not on any platform really except their website. It's kind of new. It's from India.
Yeah.
And they just kind of came in here trying to, it's banned in many countries. Just if there's any red flags, I think that should be telling you why it's so, rare.
Well, we haven't seen it, but Mohammed, you can go to Africa Bajaj. That's africabajaj.com and go and find out for yourself. But more than that, we unfortunately can't tell you. Next question, Wandi.
Next question comes from Kamogelo, who's asking, how long will the dealership process my application? Have been waiting for more than 3 days.
Well, Kamogelo, you honestly shouldn't be waiting more than 3 days. There's got to be something wrong.
Strange.
What I would encourage you to do is phone up the dealership and find out what the holdup is.
Yeah.
It's probably not the dealership. It could be something else.
With the bank.
With the bank, it shouldn't take that long to get bank finance approval.
Yeah.
So if I were you, call up the dealership, go visit them, and go and find out what the problem is.
Could maybe potential blacklisting or anything like that, kind of impact that process?
Well, then at least kind of,
find out.
Find out.
That's the case.
If that's the case, then maybe. Well, hopefully your paperwork hasn't got lost somewhere.
And that could be. I was actually thinking that's probably the what happened here. But hey,
yeah, Kamogelo, best thing, phone up the dealership, find out what's going on. Alternatively, go on to autotrader.co.za, go search for a new car or another car.
Another dealership. You'll get your car. Definitely. All right, last question comes from Matlatsi, who's asking, why is it that ladies that are on maternity leave but still fully employed cannot attain or obtain car finance? This one's strange.
Matlatsi, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. That doesn't sound right.
No.
Being pregnant shouldn't be a reason for you not to get finance.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a case that you're on maternity leave and you're not earning an income, that's a different thing. So it's got very little to do with the fact that you're pregnant, and it got a lot to do with affordability.
Well, it says here that she's still fully employed. She's still, kind of working for the company. So
then, if there's if the issue is no loss of income, then this shouldn't be the case at all. Nobody should tell you, in my opinion, anyway. I don't know what you think, Wandi.
I don't think anywhere in the world, there would be some sort of factor that's going to determine if you can finance a vehicle or not.
Based on being pregnant?
It's strange.
No, that's weird. It's not right. More than anything else, it's not right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have time for. It's been real. My name is George Mienie, and I've, as usual, been joined by Wandile Sishi at your episode of Auto Central. Catch you next time.
Sounds good.